wow, this girl knows, one, what she's talking about, but two, it's just so nice to listen to.
And props to you as well. I mean, just before we started shooting this, we were just discussing you and your journey, and I'm just so admirable of people like you who've turned a lived experience into a cause. So congrats on that.
Koon Rijjeil in Arabic is like be a man. What does that mean to you?
To be a man, interestingly enough, I actually don't think it just relates to men either. I think that females also, I say to myself all the time, man up.
Be a man as well. I think it's a state of being.
You're exactly where you're meant to be. And I think that means in the lows and the highs. Statistically, your inner voice is actually your external voices around you. So this voice that we have in us that has that fear of judgment, that has that fear of, not being good enough, not being capable enough. Oh, you can't do that. No, don't even think about doing that. That's actually usually from the people around us.
Hi everyone, so welcome to the episode on the Koon Rijjeil Podcast. So today we have Nimi Mehta. So Nimi, welcome to Koon Rijjeil. So first and foremost, I need to really admit, I've seen your content multiple times, like either if it was sponsored or if I just, followed you and stuff. And every day I see, I'm like, okay, wow, this girl knows, one, what she's talking about, but two, it's just so nice to listen to.
Oh,
I have to say that, really. And I'm not saying that to be nice. It's really, I think we need more content like this.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for being the voice of reason and just wisdom.
I got goosebumps. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. And props to you as well. I mean, just before we started shooting this, we were just discussing you and your journey. And I'm just so admirable of people like you who've turned a lived experience into a cause. So congrats on that. And thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, and as well, you're also a Red, right? So you're Liverpool fan. So that was another reason why we had to get Nimi.
Oh yeah, we're family, right?
There you go. We're a Red family. So that's awesome.
Totally.
I think we forgot to wear the shirt. I mean, I forgot to wear my shirt.
I should have.
I thought about it this morning. I'm like, should I not? But I mean, my cap is Liverpool, so I'm halfway there.
I should have worn the colour at least.
It's in your heart. It's okay.
It is.
There you go. So Nimi, the way we start every episode, right, is we ask a simple question. It's what does Koon Rijjeil mean to you? So to translate it, so Koon Rijjeil in Arabic is like be a man. What does that mean to you?
Oof. Wow, what a way to start it. To be a man, interestingly enough, I actually don't think it just relates to men either. I think that females also, I say to myself all the time, man up. And not in a way that I feel is in a toxic masculine way. But I think manning up is like a beautiful goal to reach where I feel like I need to just get myself together. So I do understand that be a man for a lot of people is, but why are we confining it to this term? Oh, it's a level of conditioning that society or culture has put upon us. I do flip it the other way because I always like to see a silver lining. And I like to see it as a goal that is attainable to all. And I think it applies to men and women.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, it's interesting that you said you also related to yourself because be a man as well. I think it's a state of being. I think because a lot of the times, when we hear growing up and maybe even today, it's like, pick yourself up, get yourself together, get things going. Yeah. And it's interesting as well that you see it or you link it back to yourself as well, because I think a lot of women that I know, for example, my sister, she's to me she has that in her. It's like, it's time to get going. We're it's time to toughen up. And I think that's sort of the meaning.
Totally. And, I think there's a misconception around that, like, a male is masculine, a female is feminine. I think the key to life in anything that you do is to be able to balance the two within you. So it's the masculine and the feminine, finding that key balance. Sometimes on some days, I'm so much more in my masculine. On some days, in some environments, the femininity of me comes out and oozes out. And it just depends on what I'm doing. I think that essentially makes me want to step up to be a man. And I do feel like professionally for men and women, we do feel like we need to be the man in a professional setting, especially if you're in corporate. What I'm trying to train my community into thinking is that's not necessarily the strongest element of you, that there's actually so much strength and vulnerability as well.
Yeah, it's crazy because growing up, I think a lot of times whenever you'd hear the word or the term be a man or man up or whatever, you'd often assume that that's all you're meant to be.
Yeah.
But there's no balance, right? It's just either masculine or you're nothing else. And I think this shift that we're seeing maybe in the past 5-6 years is actually you should have that balance between the two, so between your feminine and your masculine, whether you're a man or a woman, because at the end of the day, that's the only way you're going to live. If you're too much of one thing, it's bad for you. If you're on either extreme, it's not
totally. And if you actually think about it, where does it all start, right? So when you're born, like, you have certain influences on your life and certain voices, I guess, that are around you that are influencing your voice and your beliefs and your conditioning, essentially, of this to be a man. Let's just use that as an example. Your first influences on your voice are your mum and your dad. So how are they approaching masculinity and femininity? What is their approach to it? Because based on what they are saying is what's going to lay your foundation, right? So I think that you saying that the last 5 years has been a shift, I think because we've got a lot more conscious parenting, we've got a lot more access, I guess, to educating ourselves on this realm. But I do think we are the generation of shifting things, right? We're completely transforming that foundation. Our parents didn't have control on it. They just did what they were told, essentially. I like to refer to our parents as like the survival generation. We've kind of, I guess, been given the privilege to thrive as much as possible. But depends who the influences are on our life. And I feel like now, even though, I don't know, I'm 33 years old and I feel like my voice is ever shifting and it's ever like transforming. But who are the external influences? You got your parents, you got like school friends, school teachers, professors, university, then you go into the workspace. All these people are pushing this conditioning on you. Those influences are important. And that's what's shaping your be a man perspective.
100%. And you know, it's funny because especially when you talk about shifting, right? So today, actually, it's funny, I was talking to my mom about this just before I came in. And she was saying, she was like, you know, like in your generation, the way that you guys talk is so different from the way that me and my brothers talk, because maybe, for example, like if you're getting advice from your uncle and he's talking to you, you're like, yeah, but you don't know anything. Like you're what you know might be so different than what I've been exposed to from what I know. And the way that we speak to each other, it's like, no, but I get you, I hear you, and I'm going to give you the best possible advice given our own learning and experiences from day-to-day life. But also because we've shifted that narrative, right, of what it is to be human, I don't know, to be a man, to be a woman, to be anything really, to whatever you want to be. You know, and that's been interesting for me, just that big shift in everything.
I totally feel that. I feel like I have so many chapters in my life where I shift to different versions of me. Who I was yesterday is not who I am today. And even then, that transformation, all we strive or should strive towards, man, woman, mushroom, cow, whatever you identify as. I just want you to be conscious of your being and how you kind of, I guess, relay your expressions to the world, because that is going to have such a dramatic impact on the people around you as 100%. Well.
You know, what's interesting about this whole conversation, right? And so the biggest thing I want to talk to you about today is about, you know, how do we find... how do we form more masculine men these days? And what's the role of the women in that equation? Because there's a famous quote that says, behind every successful man is a woman, but also think to every successful person, there is someone who's pushing them along the way or really getting them there. So what is, you know, how do you see that coming to life? How do you see that happening?
I think that's a great question. And I think that there's no right or wrong. Essentially, it's such an open debate up to opinion. But, you know, there's been such a movement, I would say, over the last 5-10 years of women empowerment and, you know, feminism. I think there's been a lot of misconceptions as to what feminism really is. But I think there's a misconception that the increase in women empowerment means the decrease of allowing men to be vulnerable. And I just don't think that they're opposing concepts. I actually think they're complementary concepts. So for a woman to feel empowered and be more empowered would actually allow a man to be more in his feminine energy and in his vulnerable energy, right? And I think that balance is able, right? It's just like how as women we say we want a man who's in his masculine because that allows us to be feminine. Why not the other way around as well? Why if I you know came across, I'll give you an example. If I with my partner was a lot more in my masculine and, you know, I've got you, what's wrong? And by the way, the language in which us as women, how we speak to our men is very, very important, and which I'll go into, and the ways that you can do that. But if I was to go to him with that stoic masculinity of, you know, talk to me, what's wrong? I've got you, I'm here for you no matter what. What I've done is I've created a safe space and an energy that allows him to be comfortable enough to open up and be more vulnerable. And I think that, a lot of women might disagree with me on this, but I do think that it is our responsibility to create that energy. We are nurturers by nature, and I think that comes with the role to create an environment where men feel comfortable to speak to us. And that can be done in many ways. I think that the language that I was speaking about earlier is to ask open-ended questions. I love to do this with men because I think that, and maybe you can attest to this and agree with me on this, it's like getting blood from a stone when it comes to a man, right? When it comes to him expressing his emotions. I can't just be like, oh, tell me about your day. And he will never talk about the things that have potentially upset him or the things that are on his mind. True. It takes a lot more to get there, right? And the statistic is crazy. 77% of men actually claim that they are more comfortable going to a female friend or partner or family member to speak about their emotional state over a male counterpart or a friend, which you wouldn't believe, right? But the truth is, when men go to men, they don't actually talk about their feelings.
It's the language, right?
It's the language, because other men haven't created, or maybe are unaware of the space that they have created that doesn't allow men to speak to men. Whereas females, in our natural being, we want to help, we want to nurture. So these open-ended questions I love to ask, is there anything on your mind today? How are you feeling today? Sometimes even getting a bit more specific. I love to ask my partner, what was your highlight of the day? Was there anything that's on your mind at the moment? Things like these kind of questions help them and allow them to open up. But statements are also very important. Of course. So if people aren't answering your questions, the statements that you want to make are like, I've got you no matter what, just know that I have your back. I am here for you no matter what. These kind of statements, whether a man realizes it or not, consciously or subconsciously, registers to allow a safe environment for them to be vulnerable and to be open, and in turn actually tap into their feminine energy.
It's funny because as you were talking, I was imagining I need that.
Yeah.
I swear, I'm trying to remember the last time I've ever had a conversation like that where someone said, don't worry, I've got you. Just tell me what's wrong, what's been happening, how's your day been, actually how's it been going, what's the thing that maybe ticked you off today, or maybe even a great day. And it's crazy because, and it's so true, by the way, thankfully in my case, I have a good support system of guys that I really trust, and obviously we have that safe space where we just talk about anything and everything.
Yeah.
And even if the language isn't there, we know that it's there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? Yeah. But usually, for example, like with my female friends or even my sister, who I share a lot of things with, sometimes I go to these people because I'm looking for that comfort, because I know that at the end of the conversation I will feel like my thoughts were heard. They've been taken into account, and I'm not being judged. I'm not being whatever.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of all of that, which is where the sort of masculinity of all this comes in, right, is also to be accountable. So sometimes when you mess up at something and you tell someone, like, you know what, man, I did this thing, I shouldn't have done it, but it happened. Someone needs to hold you accountable for that. And that's sort of where I think the duality of the two, right, the feminine and the masculine energy comes together, because the masculinity will probably do that for you, and I think the feminine energy will be like, it's fine, I've got you. Yeah. Whatever it is you need to say, let it all out. I think just to have that balance is super important for any person opening up or talking.
Absolutely. And I think we get kind of confused in relationships. I'm just talking about a generic, normal relationship, a man and a woman, that we have to find all of that in one person. And just like you said, Karim, like you have a male group that you go to for certain things, whether it be accountability. Your female partner may not be able to hold that role for you in your life. However, she can hold that energy and that space for you to be vulnerable and open and be a listen and like an ear for you. So I think we get confused, and I think that this is where a lot of relationships tend to suffer, is that we put all of these roles and all of these responsibilities on our counterpart, and it's just not the reality of it. We think that the buck has to stop at them. No, we have different people in our life for a reason, right? There's a reason back in the day, in caveman days, we had a tribe. It was a tribe for a reason. We were part of a tribe. Being part of a tribe meant survival. It was the difference between life or death,
100%.
right? So that tribe tribe around you is key. Some people might be your group of people that you just have fun with and let loose with, or play sports with, go to paddle with. Some people might just be those people where you can have these deep, intimate conversations over coffee and open up about your feelings. Some people might just be those you go to a bar and a club with and have a good time with. Some people might be your business people where you actually bounce off ideas and you're like, oh, this is cool. What about this? You know, taking advice and mentorship. I think that's key. And I think this is where we get lost in relationships, especially like the male and the female balance, is that, oh, they have to be my 100% and my everything. Know your partner's capacity, I think, in certain realms. When we try to push our partner's capacity and try to put all of our expectations on them to be that person for us, I think that's where we get into the cycle and the loop of disappointment and expectation. You
know, it's funny because Esther Perel always talks about this. She had a podcast with, I think it was Lewis Howes a couple of years ago. And she was saying, she goes like, it's along the lines of like, your partner is not a village, they're a person. So they cannot hold all these roles for you. They cannot be your business consultant, your best friend, your person you play paddle with, the person you go out clubbing with. The person's going to hold you. It's like, it's draining.
It's impossible.
And keep in mind that they have a life outside of you. Like, it's not like they're born to take care of you, you know?
Totally.
And it's funny because I also learned that as well, right? So maybe earlier on, I was like, okay, if I'm to date someone, I want them to be, you know, that person who will be there for me, maybe, you know, hear me out. Go, like, for example, go and train together, watch a football game together. That's still something that I want to do till today. That's going to happen. All these sorts of things. And then you think about it, you're like, but hold on. If someone put the same, like, thought or the same thought about me, how would I feel? And then why should I make someone else feel like, no, you should do that. That's sort of how we do in relationships. No, you need to help each other. But sometimes you need to help each other by alleviating the pressure and stress off of each other.
Totally.
And give the pressure where it's actually necessary. If it's like, I don't know, something that you really can't get over, something that you really bummed out about, of course, put that pressure on someone, not all of it, but most of it, and talk to them about it and see what's up, maybe get a different perspective, you know? So and
that's really important, because let's talk about that communication side of things, because this is where a lot of relationships break down, is that I will feel certain things and you will feel certain things, but I don't know how to communicate it to you, and it comes out in anger or stress or like going at you. This is where language, again, comes down to language, how important this is, right? And I speak to a lot of like my one-to-one clients about this, is we need to waver away from you language and move on to I language. What I mean by that is I won't sit here and be like, Karim, you did this and you did that. I'm going to turn around and say, I felt XYZ when you did ABC. And this level of communication not only, again, creates a more safer space for a mature and emotionally intelligent conversation, but also allows you to then open the floor where the other person then feels comfortable to speak back to you. And I think this is where, you know, we like to play the blame game. You did this, you did that. Yes, where accountability comes in. But we need to have a level of understanding that they made me feel this way. However, A, they might not be aware. B, let me make them aware. But also, what is the solution? Are we problem-based or are we solution-based? Because if we want to make this work, how do we get there? And this is where the language really comes into play.
You know, and something I was thinking about as you were talking, which is, you know, how do we find that perfect balance, right? Because I think from a woman's perspective, sometimes maybe the way that we speak isn't like, maybe it's not so clear. It's like, what is he trying to say? And then the same thing happens to us. It's like when our partner or anyone else talks to us, tells us like something, we're like, but what did they mean? And I'll talk about it from my perspective. I'm an overthinker, big time. And I would be like, oh my God, what did they mean? Okay, did they mean that? But if they meant this, it must mean that. But if they meant that, then what? It's tiring, right? And I'm always trying to think of, okay, what's the best possible way to find a way in which we can all understand each other and speak the same language? Because that, I think, removes a lot of problems that happen in relationships, right? Is, as you said, the miscommunication, or it's a blame game, right? It's like, let's say everyone says something like, no, but you did this, you said that, but no, but that might not actually be always the case.
Absolutely. I think one thing that's important is the reaction versus response state. A lot of us tend to react. What a lot of us don't do is just pause to think before we respond. What actually aligns with what we're trying to say to our partner. Because what it comes down to, again, is, are we solution based? If we're looking to solve this issue together, then let's actually focus on that. So respond, don't react. But the second thing is to just get onto the clarification of communication. I think walking away from an interaction where you actually 100% know what the other person meant and said when they said it is to repeat it back to them. It might sound repetitive times, but here's the thing. If you say to me, oh, you know, I feel like you made me feel, you know, really inadequate yesterday when we were at that dinner. Okay, let's just say that. I will say, Karim, okay, from my understanding, what you're saying to me is I didn't make you feel great yesterday at the dinner. Is that correct? You will say, yes, that's exactly what I mean. That's when I know, okay, 100% we're clarified in that department. Okay, boxed up. Next. What is it exactly that I did, Karim, that didn't make you feel great last night? Do you see the layers that we're breaking down here? Because then it just doesn't go from, this is how you made me feel, done, walk away, fight, now we're not talking. It's, okay, I know, I've acknowledged that I made you feel a certain way last night. Okay, now let's get deeper into it. Is it something I said? Is it something I did? Was it my body language? Was it, you know, the way I was acting? What was it, Karim? And this is where we get a bit deeper. Now we need to get into that practice. By the way, relationships, friendships, work colleagues, to be able to repeat things back to each other. I say this to a lot in corporate settings, in meetings. A lot of people walk away from a meeting not knowing exactly what they need to do after the meeting. And I'm like, but did you clarify? Did you even send an email afterwards to be like, just from my understanding, this is what you would like me to do. 1, 2, 3. No, they just sat there on their desk like, okay, wait, I think they wanted me to do this, but maybe I don't know. Clarify with people. There's no harm in it. All it's going to do is going to make their job easier and your life easier as well. There's that clarity. Why are we so scared to ask the questions?
That's an interesting question, by the way. Why are we so afraid to ask?
What will it lead to? A solution? Amazing. Isn't that what we both want?
You know, and I think sometimes some people might think that I might not want to ask a question, maybe to clarify. And thing is, I think maybe the way that you're framing it is to clarify. I think a lot of people just say, I don't want to ask them what happened in the meeting because I don't want to seem like I'm stupid or I wasn't focused, right? I think maybe that's another point that some people want to avoid, right? And even in relationships, because it goes like, but did you, like, you don't want someone to think like, oh my God, did you not understand what I'm trying to say? And that gets into a bigger thing, you know? And I think to circle back to something you were saying earlier, which is to repeat, right? I think it's, because you remind me a bit about journaling. So whenever you write something down, and you go back to it 2 days later and you read it, you're like, oh my God, was I really upset about that? And that can happen when you talk to someone. So let's say you repeat something that you, like, I made, like, you felt upset about. And then I go like, was I actually upset about that? Okay, wow. Okay. No, not anymore. So done. You know, or it could be, actually I was, and then we'll hash it out after that.
I think that repetition is really, really important, like you said. And the open communication, I understand that people feel really scared to ask questions. By the way, that foundation, that feeling that we get of feeling stupid when we ask questions comes from school, right? When have you been in a classroom and a teacher's asked a question and you think you know the answer? You're like, I'm 99% sure, but I'm so scared to put my hand up because if it's wrong, everyone around me is gonna think I'm stupid. The teacher's gonna judge me. It's the fear of judgment. This is what we live our life on. A lot of people live their life, their decisions, their choices in life based on this. What we want to do is completely eradicate that, right? And that only comes with building a support system around you that creates that space for you to not have that fear of judgment. Imagine if you had a group of friends or you were around work colleagues that were constantly in judgment of you. Of course, what's that going to create? You're going to be in fight or flight mode at all times. Your nervous system is going to be so uncomfortable, so you're never going to be at ease. You can never be authentically yourself. So I think that's a really, really sad state to be in. But first, you need to acknowledge you're in that state. 100%. How do we get out of it? We start building that support system around us that allows us to be a bit more us.
100%. You know, and I think as well, like to build that circle or to build that trusting circle of people who, you know, irrespective of whatever it is that I'm ever going to ask you as a person, you're not going to use it against me. Because I think that's another fear that some people have. It's like, I don't know, what if, like, let's say you're in a boardroom and you're just catching up with your colleague, like, oh, just to make sure we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then my person might tell someone else, like, oh my God, did you know Karim's asked me today in the meeting? He didn't know what to do, but there's a double-edged sword, because part of that is it's sort of telling about how you are as a character. The fact that you're telling someone about what someone just asked you to make sure. But on the flip side, it's like, you know, you've put yourself out there. It was scary, but you did it. So that's a cool story to probably.
Yeah, totally. I've been going through like such a transition right now of my support system and the people around me, and being so conscious and intentional about the people around me. Essentially, you know, statistically, your inner voice is actually your external voices around you. So this voice that we have in us that has that fear of judgment, that has that fear of, you know, not being good enough, not being capable enough. Oh, you can't do that. No, don't even think about doing that. That's actually usually from the people around us. When you want to change job or start your own company, whatever it may be, and these people around you, are you sure? But like, you won't have salary. Oh, how are you going to pay your rent? Oh, how are you going to do this? Oh, what about your partner? Don't you want to start a family? All these things. That's not you thinking all these things. It's everyone around you that has now planted the seed of doubt in your mind. And so that inner voice then becomes you. That's what you hear every day. And what we think is that's genuinely what we think about ourselves, but it's not. It's what the people around us have put in us. So that's why I'm just so intentional about the people around me, because at the end of the day, it's going to be make or break, right? Like we said, you can't do it alone. It takes a village to live a beautiful, fulfilling life. 100%. And that village, who you choose, is going to be the difference between success or not.
Yeah, and I think as well, your inner self, right? So recently I watched Inside Out. And I think only till recently did I actually realize in my day-to-day life, I'm like, okay, so that must be anxiety, that must be joy, that must be my rational side, all coming in together to form this one person. And it's funny how you need to really know how to control, or how to control these different voices, that one, it doesn't eat you alive, because you've seen what anxiety can do to you from the film. But as well, you know, making sure that some anxiety isn't bad to a degree. But yeah, I think just managing those internal thoughts, internal dialogues, because as you said, like sometimes we hear something, we internalize it. Let's say someone says, oh, I'm not going to move jobs because that friend that I know the grass wasn't greener on the other side. So you go like, no, okay, you know what, I'm going to stay put, because what if it's not? And then that's your whole reality, right? You just think that's what it is. It's
so interesting what you said about that a bit of anxiety is good, because I think there's such a blurred thin line between anxiety and excitement. Stay with me on this, because I want you to, okay, imagine you've booked tickets to go see your favorite artist at concert, right? Okay. You've been waiting a year for this concert to happen. You are front row. It is a jam-packed stadium, and you are standing there. All of a sudden you see smoke coming out onto the stage. The drum of the first beat of the song starts playing. Everyone is screaming, okay? You are so excited. You get a feeling of like sick in your stomach, you know, you get butterflies, your heart's beating really, really quickly, your hands potentially clamming, whatever that looks like for you in excitement, okay? Take that example, okay? Now you're about to go onto stage to do a keynote to 1,000 people. Your heart is racing really, really fast. You've got a sick feeling in your stomach, okay? Your hands are getting sweaty and clammy. The same symptoms of anxiety and excitement. That's why I think they are genuinely kind of like a beautiful relationship where there's a thin line between the two. I think that we do get excited, and in Inside Out there were so many situations where she like was anxious, and then all of a sudden her eyes open and she realized, oh my God, I'm actually really excited about this. And so it's that fear and that barrier that we get through. And I think when we talk about that, the people have this judgment of this fear, I think it's doubt management. And I think that that's what confidence is. And I talk a lot about confidence because it's been such a interesting concept for me, because I do think that it's not taught to us. It's not something that we're at school and like everyone's like, this is how you become more confident. But I do think confidence is doubt management. I'm not claiming I'm confident 100% of the time. I'm just claiming that I'm able to overcome my doubt a lot quicker than the person next to me.
Definitely.
And that's what it is.
Definitely. And you know, especially I think with confidence, all of that comes from childhood, right? So when you're growing up, especially as I said like earlier, like when you're in class, she was like, I have a question, and like whoever answers this gets a lucky sticker. And you answer it, sorry, you want to answer like, okay, do I, and then you answered, you get it wrong, but then your whole confidence is not deflated, but it's a bit, okay, maybe not as good as it was before.
Yeah.
And then you go again next time, you get it wrong again, like a different question. And then I think, you know, and then obviously when you're more older, when you're in those boardroom settings, right, where it's like, okay, some little thought from your childhood creeps in. It's like, do you remember that time in class where you answered the question wrong? Yeah, that could be you if you mess up this presentation. And then you just become so unconfident in yourself, in your ability to speak, in your ability to think in front of these many people, and you end up just fluffing the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a lived experience, right? It's something that you've been through, and it's it's probably a subconscious thing, and you probably don't even realize that it happened to you. But over and over again, that's why you don't want to get up and speak at a presentation, at a meeting, because you've gone through this lived experience. But it's not your reality anymore. It can be changed. Unfortunately, a lot of people hang on to that, whether they realize it or not. And I think that's really, really sad. However, if you're able to acknowledge it, then you put the tools and techniques in place to help you overcome it and put yourself out of your comfort zone.
Okay, so now what are the part of those techniques that you would possibly recommend to someone who, you know, who doesn't have the confidence anymore, or they're always hearing that inner voice that's of a younger version of themselves, that, you know what, you can't do it, you're not maybe as good as you thought you are, or whatever it is.
I always like to personify my inner voice. What I mean by that is I'm talking about the inner voice that is negative to me, that is telling me I can't do it, that is always putting me down, right? This voice that none of us want inside of us, the angel and the devil that we want to get rid of, that voice, personify it. What does that person look like? What do they sound like? What I mean by this is, for a very long time, that version or that person for me took many different faces. It took a face of a friend who ages ago, you know, didn't treat me well. That's the face it took. Recently, it took, you know, someone in the workplace who didn't treat me well. Whatever that looks like for you. It could be like a cartoon animation that you don't like or that is a villain, you know, but personify it. Put an actual profile and face to it, because then what that allows you to do is externalize that voice. You recognize that it's not actually a part of you. It looks nothing like you. It doesn't behave anything like you. It's not me. And so whenever you hear that voice, you're like, oh, okay, he's back again.
Here we go again.
She's back again.
Karen. Are we going to call her Karen?
Karen.
I know a Karen. So
yeah. Oh, we know many Karens.
I'm sorry, Karen, that I know.
She's probably a nice Karen.
She's a very nice Karen. I'll give her that. Yeah.
So let's say Karen, okay? Your internal Karen. Let's take her out and actually recognize. And once we start to externalize this persona, we then start to build our life away from it. And then we see it creeping in and out. And by the way, I am someone who has worked on my confidence and my pillars for years and continue to do every single day. It is never 100%. I'm not saying I never have this devil come in.
Of course. Of
course, we're human beings. But the whole point is that we're able to overcome it quicker. So I would say personify your inner voice. What does it sound like? What are the doubts? What does it look like? And that way it allows you to separate yourself from it.
Interesting. So one thing that I want to talk to you about today, I think on a slightly similar topic, which is, you know, high value men.
Yeah.
Because I think it sort of ties into confidence and whatnot. So I think for the past 3-4 months, my Instagram feed has just literally been people talking about high value men. Until today, I don't know what a high performance man looks like. I don't know. Because they go like, a high performance man should be 1, 2, 3, 4. If he's not a high performing man, then he's whatever. It's like, so what is that for you? Okay.
You're really throwing me in there with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say a high value man is an emotionally intelligent man.
Okay.
Again, I don't think there's a right or wrong to this answer. It's very subjective. So for me, it could be different. You ask, you know, Shirley next to me, she might have a different answer. But I genuinely believe that. That's what a high value man is to me. A man who is in touch with his emotions, who is comfortable to feel vulnerable, someone who is in touch with their pillars, understands that emotion is not a weakness, is able to meet me in a deep conversation where we can talk about our emotions. But actually 47% of women actually believe that, you know, the greatest characteristic that they want in a man is emotional intelligence. That is what women thrive towards. That's what they want. I know for a lot of women that isn't the case. And I feel like there's been a shift. I'd say even a lot of my friends who are like, oh, he's a bit too emotional. So I'm like, where's the win here? Sometimes we're making it difficult for men to have that space to be emotionally vulnerable. You know, it's like, oh, he's a bit too much. You know, he's a bit too in his feminine energy. Okay, so what's the balance? So I would say a high value man for me is emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest picture that's been painted to me, and I think it's, I mean, a lot of them is, so as you said, like, is emotional intelligence, but I think that's sort of like a secondary thing. I think the first priority for a lot of people that I've seen, like on posts and social and stuff, is like they need to have like their own business. So that's one. 2, they need to be rich, obviously. 3, play life by their own rules, and then 4 is emotional intelligence.
Wow.
So, and to me, you know, to go back to something that you were saying, because I always used to mention that, like, to my friends or even in previous episodes, which is, what's the balance? Because a lot of women want a man, the 47% who want the man to have emotional intelligence and to be there and can speak to them about these things and open up. But then you have the other 53%, plus or minus, who will be like, he's too much.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know who, like, I know who I am. I know what I am. But, you know, where do we go?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I think for women, and I'll give it to you guys as well, like, a lot of men make it hard because some people go like, I want a woman to be this. You're like, yeah, but you're not building a Barbie. You're not. It's not something you build in a factory and then, you know. And I think sometimes for me it feels a bit that way. To be, and I don't need to say this. I'm not like belittling who men are or what we are by any means, because some people feel like, no, but like it sounds a bit like you're taking away from the true essence of a man. Yeah. Right? Of course, you should have the basic fundamentals, which is accountability, which is to be a person of power, to be a leader, to be someone that protects, who obviously has emotional intelligence to help those around him and obviously help himself. You know, but as well also having that space where, I also feel, just feel like I can speak to you and not be afraid of anything. Yeah. Because sometimes it's a reaction, sometimes it's like a you know, or whatever it is. So it's part of it is tough.
Totally. And I get that, because I think though, when you are operating as a man, when you are operating as your most authentic self, you will attract what is authentic to you. Sure. Whereas if you feel like you are trying to tick boxes for women and you're trying to be super masculine and, you know, you say the right things and do the right things and be the gentleman and be the pillar of strength that they want you to be, but that's not your natural state most of the time, only 20% of the time, you're being inauthentic to you. So of course she's going to demand that of you. If you are a single man who is looking to partner up with someone and you feel like, where do I find that balance? Where do I find the perfect balance of being masculine and feminine for a woman? You're already on the wrong foot because you're trying to do it for a woman.
Exactly, not doing
right?
it for you.
You're not doing it for you. So who are you authentically? Who are you when you are just you on your own, taking a walk on the beach, you know, going for a run, whatever that looks like, your happy place for you? Because that's where a woman will meet you, and the right woman will meet you. And I do think that, you know, for men it's really tough, because I think that growing up, it's been, the role of the man has been so romanticized in TV shows and movies. How many movies have we seen, or like chick flicks we've seen, where, you know, this suave man comes in who has the swagger, but also such a gentleman, opens all the car doors, all the hotel doors, you know, everything comes in, pulls your seat out. Oh, you know, the way he speaks. Oh, just everything, and they've got everything. So as girls, young girls who are watching this, we grow up to think, that's what I want. When's my knight in shining armor gonna come along? When the truth is, even as women, I don't even think that's what we want when we see it. Because when we grow up, we get to see that, hang on, I'm quite a high performing woman. And sometimes, and I'm gonna say something controversial here, I actually don't think a high power woman can be with a high power man. A high value woman can be with a high value man. I think there's clashes there. I think there's serious clashes there. And the reason being, I think that, you know, everyone's looking for the alpha male. You know what I've recognized more lately than anything is my powerful, beautiful female friends are so much more attracted to beta males. That's what they want.
Interesting.
But they want a beta male. A beta male is, you know, someone who doesn't have to always be put first. A beta male sees the strength in their alpha woman. A beta male doesn't compete with his alpha woman. And that's where an alpha woman gets to thrive. Yeah. Right? Because they're not competing. 100%. They're not trying to put their alpha male first all the time because that's where he has to be. Because if he's not there, oh my gosh, like hell's going to break loose. You know?
So interesting.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I never thought about it like that, to be honest. Because usually you'd always imagine like a power couple. Like two high performing, like a man and a woman, and they're like going out conquering the world, doing what they need to do. But that's an interesting thought though that I didn't really think about, because you'd normally think that, you know, like the alpha would be with the alpha, then the beta would be with the beta. But I think there's a truth in that sometimes opposites in a way would attract in some sort of way.
And there is something, so I want to just stress, there is something so beautiful about being a beta male. I know that for men, you grow up and you're told, and society tells you alpha, 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 you have to be the alpha male. The most successful relationships that I see around me in my environment are alpha women and beta males.
Wow.
That is I think that is like a recipe to success. And that in no way, again, I want to stress, is a negative thing. But I think that a lot of the time we're told culturally or societal norms are telling us that a male has to be alpha. That's why men feel so inauthentically themselves, because they feel like every room that they step into, they have to be the alpha. They have to compete with the other men in the room. But a lot of them are beta. Yeah. And they need to be okay in being in their beta. And that's where they thrive. This is also where relationships will soar.
100%.
And I think that's the boundary we need to cross at the moment.
So okay, so to counter that, so do you think in that case an alpha male and a beta female, would that, because even then, I mean, I haven't really imagined how that would look like as a dynamic, but do you think that as well is something that could work as a power duo, or do you think that maybe men are best, maybe from your own experience or your own thoughts or experiences, that usually a beta man and a high performing woman tend to, they just bond in a much better way than...
I think it goes either way.
Okay.
I think there just has to be one alpha and one beta in a relationship. Okay. I think it's more of a struggle in a relationship if both are alphas.
Yeah.
I just think that's more clashing.
Yeah, it's too many opinions, too many...
It becomes a competition.
Exactly.
It's a competition. That's what it is. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm earning X amount. Okay, what are you bringing to the table? And by the way, I think there's beauty in a relationship where it's healthy competition, where, you know, you're always leveling up because of each other. Yeah. I think that's so important. But when it becomes a competition of I'm this, you're this, or, you know, I'm achieving this, this is where we struggle.
Yeah. It gets to a place where it's like I'm doing it just to win a race. I'm not doing it for the benefit of this relationship or the family or whatever it may be at that point.
Totally.
Yeah. So you know, and I think a lot of the times, you know, with men, as you said, like we always try to find this way to, maybe not always, but a lot of the time, is to compete, right? Yeah. Is who's the top dog in this setting, right? If it's in the gym, I was in the gym, and I really don't get it. It's like, come on.
I know.
It's like, I'm lifting 300 kilos. I'm like, okay, great.
Good for you.
Great, bro. You know, but again, and I also feel like a lot of the times that's being done to attract that everyone's gonna be like, star eyes, you know, like, oh my God, he's done that. He must be so strong and he must be so masculine, but you know, I don't think that's the case.
No, not at all. And I think there's such thing as silent confidence that isn't spoken about enough. And silent confidence is someone who, you know, you can just see it in their aura and their energy. Silent confidence is someone who is winning in life but doesn't need to talk about it. Yeah. Whether that's monetary, whether that's hitting their goals, whether that's, you know, building a business, whether that's having a beautiful family, whatever winning looks like. Yeah. But that's where silence confidence is. We see so many people in society, at the gym, at work, in your friends group, that feel like they need to showcase who they are in order to keep up with the Joneses. We feel this, even in the neighborhoods and the communities that you're in. Which car do you have, bro? Oh, so is that a 1-bed, a 2-bed, or a 3-bed that you're in? An apartment or a villa? Which community do you live in?
How many millions did you pay?
How many millions? You know, how many people in your team? There's so many questions that happen, not just, you know, specifically here in Dubai, all around the world, where this is where our value is in society. But no one, anyone with silent confidence actually doesn't feel like they need to speak. All their actions do the talking. And I think this is where it's key. You know, and you can tell when someone's silently confident. How many people do you know, Karim, that in your friends group or just you've met at like dinners or networking events or whatever, that their first point of, you know, you're like, hey, I'm Ibrahim. Hey, Ibrahim, great to meet you. So what do you do? Oh, actually, I own a multi-million-dollar company. I hire about 100 to 600 people globally, actually. I live in the Palm, actually, and it goes out onto the beach. And, you know, every morning that's where I have my coffee. And they splurge their whole life out to you. It screams insecurity to me.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Definitely,
And I feel like that silent confidence, I don't need to go into a room and tell anyone about anything about my life, because my actions will do all the talking.
Exactly. You know, I think talk about actions going, like doing all the talking, right? The other day you posted a reel and it was, I think it was like proving to other people that actually I can do it. And it was that one video, I was like, man, that was super powerful, because a lot of the times you feel like you need to prove, you need to tell the world that actually I'm gonna do this, but actually you do all the hard work in the dark when no one's looking, and then you just go in and show it. Not by showing off, it's more of doing it just because, you know, it's just how your life is now. So
totally, it's that silent building that no one sees. That's where, you know, I used to think for a really long time, when I'm not externally doing something like hosting a big stage or interviewing one of the biggest celebrities, I'm not doing one of these big things, I felt like a failure. And I realized it's all the work that I'm doing behind the scenes that no one sees on social media, on TV, on the radio, that is the work I'm the most proud of. That's the work that no one gets to see, but I will see the fruits of that labor soon enough. And I think that that's important to recognize.
100%. You know, and I think as well, like, you know, part of as well being a man, right? It's always this, like, you need to show your success in some sort of way, whether you're Ibrahim, the guy who owns the bill on the palm, or you're Abdullah, who lives God knows where, but he's living life because he's doing something that's really true to him, and he's not showing it off to, maybe not with the intention of making people feel like, I feel like a bit down, I don't feel as successful. But actually it's funny, because the other time I was talking about this very point with my therapist. I'd always tell her, like, you know, you look at people, you're like, man, this guy's doing well, he's living this, he's living that, and I'm maybe not there. And one thing that I've noticed multiple times after that, I'm like, okay, hold on, they have so many great things thankfully going on in their life, but maybe the most important things that I have going on in my life they don't have. Which, if it's family, if it's friends, if it's health, if it's I don't know, whatever, secure, whatever it may be, you know. And it's these sorts of things that as well, you know, I don't think a lot of people talk about enough. It's just, I think the things that no one sees is, I think, what's most important, because that's what's truly meaningful to you, and you don't need to show that to the world.
Totally. And you know, I think that it's so dangerous when we get into the realm of comparing, because there's something called the comparison cycle. And the first part of the cycle is where you start looking at what others have and what you don't have. And what that then leads to is you putting all of your energy into seeing how they're winning and not seeing how you could win, right? So when all your energy is going into other people, what's going into you? Nothing. So we need to redirect that energy into seeing what you have. And this is where gratitude comes from, because you actually look around, and what you just mentioned was like, I've got all of these beautiful things around me. Wow, I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky. But when we compare, what happens is that then leads to us not recognizing our strengths. And what that leads to is low self-confidence. And then it's just a vicious cycle, because the low self-confidence will always lead to then us comparing again. We need to break that cycle. And the only way to break that is to stop looking at what others have and start recognizing what you do have.
That's crazy. And I think as well on that idea of, you know, of comparison, I think as well, I mean, growing up, I think, as I said, like maybe watching like the TV shows and films growing up, I think the main thing that you'd always see, even some men and as well some women as well, are like maybe like these teen films, you know, it's like, oh my God, she has the cool boyfriend, but I don't have that. So, but on a serious note, like, do women go through that as well? Like that comparison? Because I mean, as men, we compare. I'm not going to sit and lie to you and say that we don't. We do. Even if we try to not, we do it. So do women as well have that thing where they compare over things that, you know, things that maybe are very normal to have, for example, like if it's whatever it may be.
Do you mean like compare partners or
lifestyles, life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that women are also incredibly inclined to compare more on the physical front of what another woman looks like. So that's where women find their value, because, you know, when we grow up, especially, I mean, I'm from an Indian culture, so for me growing up, and I feel like Arab culture is kind of the same, if you had other cousins or other sisters, it's kind of like, oh, who's taller? Come on, put your backs back to back. Who's taller? Oh, who's skinnier? Who's got, you know, more beautiful hair? Who's fairer? Who's darker? It was these constant comparisons. So us as women then also, as little girls watching or reading like teen magazines, it was all like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera with like the skinniest bodies ever known to mankind. And then 10, 15 years ago, we transitioned into the curvy woman. Now you see Kim Kardashian and she's the model of what beauty is. You see how, I mean, it messes with a female's mind. Definitely. So when I was growing up, a skinny female with no hips or no body was sexy. Then I moved to Kim Kardashian, who's okay, now I need to be curvy. Now I need to be curvy. Okay, what's the next thing? It's like you almost have to be, it's kind of like what's trending at the time. And this is where women then feel like they are comparing themselves. Oh, she's so much skinnier. Oh my gosh, she's got better style than me. Oh, her hair's so much like more healthier and beautiful than me. And I think that that's where women tend to compare more to other women.
Compare more as well. And I think, you know, recently, maybe not recently, again, I think since Dove did that campaign, maybe even just before, where it's, I think, natural beauty and being your own version of yourself, whatever that may look like, whether you're skinny, curvy, in the middle, whatever it is. I think just doing it for yourself. And I think that's really the biggest takeaway, I think, for me in general in life, is do everything for yourself and not for the approval of anyone else, because
who cares?
Who are they?
Who cares? By the way, also, the only way, like, I had such issues with my body positivity as a woman growing up. The people that breathed life into me and confidence into me were the women around me. So it depends also, if you're a woman comparing yourself to other women, who are the women around you also that are telling you to compare, you know, or are saying indirect things that compare you and them, right? Have women around you that just breathe confidence into you. My God, you look amazing. Wow, only you could do this. These are the kind of people I have around me. That's why I feel like I can walk into every room and be the most confident version of myself. And my friends feel the same, because all we do is breathe positivity into each other. And I think that's important for men as well, right? Like, how are you with your male friends? Do you speak positivity into each other?
Yeah.
You do?
I mean,
intentionally, or kind of like, do you hold back?
No.
Okay.
I never do. I don't think I hold. I mean, look, some of my guy friends, I'm very, very open, like very positive. Like, yeah, I mean, like for example, like that suit looks really good on you.
Yeah.
Actually, a good friend of mine, I got a suit with him the other day, and I was like, man, that suit looks really good, really nice fit. Other friends, it's just, you know, they you know, they're a bit different. They don't like that kind of conversation. So I don't go near there. But it depends who I'm talking to, though. For example, like some of my friends, we talk positively about anything, like whether it's, I don't know, for example, like maybe their fitness journey, or maybe how far they've come from a problem, you know, how they've overcome certain struggles that maybe no one would have thought they would have come out of it, but they've done it, you know. Positivity in that sense. Physical appearance, but maybe not so much.
But in anything they're achieving in life, it's like, dude, you're doing so well. Like, imagine what you came from like 5 years ago. That's so important to do. I wonder, do you think men hold back in speaking positivity into each other? Like, they might think it, but speaking it is so different.
Look, I'll speak about myself. I try my best not to hold back. Some men, I know that they definitely hold back for sure. And I see it. Like, for example, like someone clearly, for example, like has lost a lot of weight, for example. Lost a lot of weight, looks really good, really, like, you know, hitting the weights in the gym or whatever it is they're doing in their life. We'd be like, oh, you know, good job. does that really help someone? Maybe not. Because a good job, sorry, but anyone can say that.
Yeah.
You don't know, you know where they've come from.
Yeah.
So you should be the first one on the line who's going to be like, man, I'm so proud of you, man. I remember the day when 2 years ago when you were the complete opposite, and now look at you, you've flipped the table on its head. You're training hard, you're eating well, you're working on yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. You know, and we need to establish more of those types of things, right?
Absolutely. I think, what is it taking from you if you are able to breathe positivity into someone? If you're able to acknowledge that, oh, you have such a beautiful smile, or you've been achieving so much, oh, your company's doing so well, bro. Like, I know how far you've come. What is it taking from you? Absolutely nothing. Exactly. A few words and a few breaths. It's not taking anything away. So that culture, I think, needs to be started by someone in a friend group or by someone in a social group to then see that, oh, wow, other people will start to notice. Oh, look at how he or she is talking. Oh, actually, I think something positive of that person. I'm going to say it. You know, and it's kind of like a beautiful poison that spreads out.
100%. And actually, because I'm doing like a lot of like group class training. So I've been doing it for a while. So, and I make it a habit after every single training, every single one, after clap. Yeah. Everyone like, guys, really good job. Give every single one a high five. Like, man, you fucking smashed it today. You did a really good job. Because at the end of the day, we're all training. We're part of a team, but we're all training together. We're all training for the same goal. So you need to be that person who's going to, again, lift them up.
Yes.
And even if you're not doing it, even if you're just doing it, you know, for the sake of just to remind them of, you know, actually, like, you don't say it direct, like maybe 2 months ago, maybe you didn't run as quick.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you're being like, man, really good job. Gosh. You're emphasizing the fact that, you know what, I know where you've come from, and I'm proud of where you are now.
Totally. You know? One thing I say at the end of every single workshop class that I have every week with my community is, thank you for showing up for yourself. You didn't show up for me, you didn't show up for anyone, you showed up for yourself. And that, even just these words of affirmations, right? That you don't even know. It could transform someone's day, or it could just be a beautiful moment between two
100%,
people.
100%.
I think that's so important.
And I always say, like, you know, sometimes there's always someone in the world who's looking for that one nice thing to hear from someone. Whether it's after workout, whether it's just a good morning, maybe it's just a smile. You never know, but sometimes people need that in life. It's not, as I said, it's not hard to do. It's just a few words, few breaths, it's fine. You'll get it back a second later. You know?
And how great does it make you feel also? It's not exactly selfless either, because it makes you feel amazing once you've also said it.
100%.
Yeah. So,
Nimi, we would like to end every episode. Time flew by the way today. I don't know how. But yeah, so the way that we end every episode is, I'm going to hand you a notebook. So the notebook essentially is, basically, I want you to write down a quote that has helped you in your life, and obviously will help somebody in need if they, you know, if you feel like there's a quote that will really help them overcome a struggle or a problem that they do have, whatever it may be. Okay.
Amazing. Let's do it. Do I say it out loud what I'm writing?
You don't need to, but you can if you want to. If you feel like it's super powerful, like Marvel superpower wise.
Okay, so this is let me just, I don't think I can write and speak.
No.
Yeah, okay. Do I write my name?
Yeah, of course.
Nimi Mehta. Okay, so this is my most favorite quote. I have two, but this is one I've written down, which is, you're exactly where you're meant to be. And I think that means in the lows and the highs, in the mids, in the struggles, in the challenges, in the beauty, because I think that we are so focused on the future and where we should be and why we're not achieving what we should be achieving. Instead, why aren't we recognizing how far we've come? You know, when we look back at the past, we focus on the negative stuff in the past. Why aren't we looking back and acknowledging how far we've actually come in life? For you to be doing this podcast even now and everything that you've achieved, right? You know, a lot of people will be focused on, why aren't my podcast numbers hitting? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with the next few guests in the next few months? Oh my God, wrap around partnerships, all of these things. But once upon a time, this wasn't even an idea. This was like a speck in the future. And now you're living and breathing it. Exactly. And I think to acknowledge you're exactly where you're meant to be is really beautiful.
I love that. You know, I always think about that very line. And I think of it in that way, but as well in a slightly different way, which is, you're in this position for a reason. Yeah. So you're in a problem. Yeah, you're in this problem for a reason. Because now it's time for you to take that step that you're maybe too afraid to do a year ago. And it's these sorts of thoughts that, you know, we need to just keep on reiterating to the fact that, you are where you need to be, or where you're meant to be.
It's so powerful, and I think that it just puts a lot of perspective into your mind when you're so focused on trying to be amazing and be the best.
Be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was an incredible session.
Honestly. I could talk for hours with you.
Literally. Can we do a round 2? Man, that was awesome. Really, thank you so much for your time.
No.
It was fantastic. A lot of great learnings and just a super good time.
You know what? I just want to say I interview a lot of people for a living, and it's very rare for me to come across people who just are such authentic interviewers, and I feel like you really, really are. So props to you.
Thank you so much.
No, of course.
That's amazing to hear.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.